Thank you so much for buying Meat Mixer. I know your dog is really going to love it. Mine do. And this has been 3 years in the making for me. So I'm so excited. I'm just going to take a moment and I just want to show you how I make it for my dogs. So there's 2 ways to make Meat Mixer. The first is you can just make it a pound at a time, but I'm going to show you how I make it for my dogs because I have multiple large breed dogs. And for me, this is just the best way to do it. I make it ahead and then I freeze it and it's good to go. So there's 2 sizes of Meat Mixer. You can buy one that goes with 25 pounds of ground meat, or you can buy one that goes with 10 pounds of ground meat. Again, you can make it a little bit at a time, but I'm going to talk about taking the whole bag and just making it in advance. So I'm going to add the smaller bag to 10 pounds of ground beef. And let me show you how this goes. I just open up the bag and inside a Meat Mixer is a lot of liver and heart. We've also got some broccoli in here and some kale, some mushrooms. There's not a lot of ingredients in here. It's just enough to balance it out and make it just cool for your dog and just make sure that he gets all the nutrients that he needs. So I've got my entire bag of Meat Mixer. I've got 10 pounds of ground beef. And what I do is I add 6 or 7 cups of water to that. Now, honestly, you can add bone broth. You can add a few eggs if you want. I don't measure out the water. I just kind of pour it in. It's not really relevant how much water goes in there, but it will dry out a little bit after you mix it. So a little bit wetter is better than less wet. All right, that's probably enough water there. And the next step is I can use a spoon because I'm making it in bulk and because I make a lot of dog food. I'm going to roll up my sleeves and this stuff's going to get kind of gooey. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my hands and I'm just going to quickly grind up the meat with the Meat Mixer and the water. And that's it. Couple of grinds, so much faster than using a spoon when I'm making this in bulk, and Meat Mixer is good to go. You don't need to have it completely mixed up. Honestly, just take a quick little pass at it. Just like any raw or cooked food, not every meal needs to be balanced. You know that this whole container is balanced, so don't worry if it's not completely mixed together and perfect. So this is mixed and ready to go. For me, I just use a steam table tray. I put the lid on it and that goes right into the freezer. You can put it into smaller portions if you like. This will last my dogs about 3 days. I've got 4 or 5 large breed dogs at any given time. And I'm just going to put this in the freezer, pull it out, and I got meals for 2 to 3 days for my dogs. No muss, no fuss. Now, if you're not a raw feeder, not to worry. You can actually cook Meat Mixer. The bone in this is very finely powdered, freeze-dried bone from New Zealand pastured cattle. So you can heat this. I would recommend that you don't go too high with your temperature because you want the nutrients to be maintained. 300 to 325 would work great. Put in the oven for 20 minutes to 30 minutes. If salmonella or bacteria is a concern for you and you have a meat monitor, stick it in there and you want to get the internal temperature to about 145 and that should be great for your dog. Now, if you're using lower fat meats, then Meat Mixer is pretty good with the fatty acid content, but I always recommend adding a source of omega-3 fats to any food. The reason why we don't put it in Meat Mixer is because these fats are very, very fragile and they're not shelf stable. We don't want them to oxidize and cause issues with your dog. So, of course, I like to add safe seed to it. I'm not going to add it to this before I freeze it, but right before I serve it to my dogs, I'm going to put my fish oil, my marine oil, or preferably my safe seed right on it right before I serve it. And now the most important part, which is giving Meat Mixer to your dog. But first, we might need a little bit of a taste test, and I think I might have a volunteer. Eli? Yeah. Eli says it's pretty good, and it's good for him.